Time to do the job. Time to do the job! Behold the jobber of jobbers. Danimal Jobber.
What's up, everybody? This is the Edmonton area's own D-Job, Danimal Jobber, self-proclaimed Duke of the Cruiserweights, with another Jobbing Out with Danimal Jobber 205 live and WWE Cruiserweight Report, courtesy of the Edmonton Sports Podcast Network, the fabulous Edmonton SPN. In sports this week, the Oklahoma City Thunder's Russell Westbrook was named the NBA's MVP for a record of 42 TDs. Oh, I see. Your Edmonton Eskimos started off the season with the big win over the BC Lions with a last-second game-winning field goal. Unfortunately, they lost linebacker J.C. Sherritt for the season in the process. Still an impressive win for the Esks as they defeat a Lions team that is picked to finish ahead of them in second place. I guess the Esks are just not willing to accept that. They followed it up with an impressive comeback victory over Darian Durant and the Montreal Alouettes. This week in wrestling was marred by a sad loss. Alberta's Smith Hart of the Hart family succumbed to cancer today at 68. I wish the Hart family all the best in this tough time. Rest in peace, Smith Hart. In indie wrestling this week, Cody Rhodes became the new Ring of Honor champion. Things have gone well for the younger son of the legendary Dusty Rhodes since he left the WWE, and I'm happy for him. He did put up with a lot, having to work for so long as glorified enhancement talent in his Stardust character. Also, Bobby Fish, officially left Ring of Honor and joined the WWE's NXT. He made his debut on the NXT episode this week, along with the new announcer, Mauro Ranallo, to a big ovation from the fabulous NXT crowd. This week in WWE, on Raw, of course, we had another heated encounter between Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar, leading into their title match at Great Balls of Fire in a week. Samoa Joe put the coquina clutch on Lesnar and came within seconds of making him pass out before the other members of the locker room pulled him off of Lesnar. Roman Reigns came out to brag about how he's the big dog of the yard, as per usual, but when an ambulance pulled up, Roman Reigns opened it and looked inside, expecting to see Braun Strowman, but Strowman attacked him from behind, threw him into the side of the ambulance, and threw him in the back, closed the door, and hit the vehicle to tell them to drive off. He then showed off his monster persona once again to the crowd. This is, of course, in preparation for these two to face each other in an ambulance match at Great Balls of Fire. I'm not sure which was the greatest roar, Strowman's or the crowd in approval of someone who is able to manhandle and destroy Roman Reigns that way. A gauntlet match was held for the Raw women to find a new number one contender. Nia Jax was one of the first two starters and went on a monster tear, beating everyone until the finals, where she was upset by Sasha Banks. It's a shame that in a gauntlet match, one person usually goes on a tear, only to lose to the winner, who has the benefit of starting last. But WWE did the best job of booking it with what they had. In a perfect world, they might have had a battle royal where both ladies could have looked amazing, destroying all their competition before one eventually came out on top. Anyway, Sasha Banks will face champion Alexa Bliss at Great Balls of Fire. Goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire! This pay-per-view's on fire! Finally, in a surprise segment on Raw, Big Cass made up with Enzo Amore, agreeing with Enzo that their years of brotherhood is just too much to give up on so easily, and that they were still boys and everything. Just to attack him again, throw Enzo down the ramp back to the fans, and break his heart in an additional 3 places. What a castle! That wasn't very nice! Congratulations, Big Cass. You are now the first one to bear the dubious title that others will bear after you of Casshole. On SmackDown Live this week, Naomi retained the SmackDown Women's Championship once again against Lana, and Carmella won the rematch of the first ever Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. This time, however, James Ellsworth's interference was not able to give much help to Carmella, as James was rendered unconscious on the outside of the ring. Carmella was forced to climb the ladder herself to win the briefcase. WWE's attempt to right the wrong of having a man win it for the first time, I guess? And now to... Wait, what? This just in. Apparently Big Cass made up with Enzo Amore at a house show just so he could turn on him and attack him yet again. Hey, Castle! And now to this week's Cruiserweight action. To start things off, on main event we had Grand Metalik versus the premier athlete Tony Nese. This is a fun performance from Grand Metalik, who showed his mastery of the ropes, taking it to the premier athlete for virtually the entire match. He even came up close to victory when he hit an elbow drop from the turnbuckle. However, in the end, Tony Nese prevails after countering Grand Metalik's Metalik driver. He hits a super kick, German suplexes Metalik's head into the corner turnbuckle, and hits his running Nese for the victory. On Monday Night Raw, we had Neville versus Lince Dorado in a non-title match, with Akira Tozawa watching from a VIP seat, courtesy of the Titus brand. This time beside Akira Tozawa is a clearly marked bag of popcorn, a drink with a straw, and a hot dog. Wow, if I could actually see popcorn in the bag, I'd say that Titus had learned his lesson and was much more hospitable this week. The match was a lot of brutality from Neville, almost as if he's trying to send a message of warning to Akira Tozawa. Lince Dorado does hit a really nice somersault suicide dive onto Neville, followed by a top turnbuckle flying crossbody for a 2 count, after throwing Neville back into the ring. However, it's a relatively short match, and just after that, Neville floors Dorado with a kick to the head, and then crawls up to him and puts on the rings of Saturn, and Dorado quickly taps out. After the match, Neville stares down Tozawa, of course, and issues a direct challenge to him. Tozawa takes off his suit jacket, gets up, and goes into the ring to confront him. At this point, though, Titus O'Neil comes out and stops him from fighting, saying why fight for free when he just finalized a title match for them to face each other at the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view. So it's official. Akira Tozawa is the new #1 contender and will finally face Neville for the Cruiserweight Championship. Titus also announced that Tozawa was his newest person under contract with Titus Worldwide, the new name for the Titus brand. He finishes by saying we will finally see if the Neville level is as strong as the power of Tozawa. He attempts to excite the audience by doing Tozawa's ha ha ha, but this crowd doesn't seem to be as into it as some. Then we get to 205 Live. Before the show, they recap all the events between Akira Tozawa, Titus O'Neil, and Neville leading into their Cruiserweight Championship match at Great Balls of Fire. The show kicks off with a quick interview with Jack Gallagher, mostly just showing off his character, accepting the loss from last week, and warning the Brian Kendrick that he will do better this week. And then we have the gentleman Jack Gallagher versus the Brian Kendrick. After Gallagher enters the ring, he is surprised to hear his music playing again. Then out comes the Brian Kendrick in his suit, wearing a fake mustache and a red wig that looks sort of like Jack Gallagher's hair, and carrying an umbrella. Kendrick attempts to destroy Jack Gallagher's character by saying that he's a joke, a caricature, and a cartoon character. He says that he should be an embarrassment to England, but England itself is an embarrassment. He refers to Gallagher as no James Bond, but a pint-sized pale imitation of William Regal, and says that he ain't laughing. Very mean and out of nowhere non-physical assault on Jack Gallagher. It's not like these men had been feuding. What did Jack Gallagher's character ever do to Kendrick? Kendrick comes this close to earning the dubious distinction of Castle! Kendrick even wrestles in a suit. Strange. They may have wanted to build up to this a bit more. It felt a bit extreme and out in left field to me. Anyways, Kendrick was the first of Jack Gallagher's opponents not to run at him when Jack did his corner handstand. Gotta give him credit. At least someone appears to have some idea about his opponent when wrestling Gallagher. The men wrestle for a few minutes, and Kendrick's hair gets messed up, and he looks more like a villainous version of young Albert Einstein from a bad high school play than Jack Gallagher. He could almost be a human version of Bowser Kid's Ludwig von Koopa from Super Mario Bros. Just a bad costume idea. Anyways, the match ends early when Kendrick gets upset and grabs his umbrella and hits Gallagher with it, getting a disqualification. He then hits Gallagher again and again until he breaks his umbrella. He then grabs Jack's umbrella and beats him with it a bunch of times. He then leaves the ring and throws off his wig and walks towards the dressing room. I'm a man with a plan. He's playing. More like, he's a man with a really bad one-day gimmick idea. It was bad. It looked totally Bush League and hardly worthy of a WWE product. Oh well, moving on. Then we move to an interview with Drew Gulak, in which Dasha shows footage of Mustafa Ali's rollover victory over him from last week. Gulak says she's glad she did show that, because it illustrates his point. It shows that guys like Mustafa Ali, who he doesn't feel can beat him with flying moves, can beat him with a safe ground move, illustrating his no-fly zone, safe and sound, feet on the ground concept. He then is interrupted by Mustafa Ali, who asks a few questions of his own. He asks why Drew Gulak hates exciting high-flying moves. Does he really think that this will make a better 205 Live? Or is the real reason that high-flying is something Drew just can't do? Taunting him with a thumbs up and a smile. This leads into Drew Gulak versus Mustafa Ali. Drew Gulak comes out with his megaphone saying, safe and sound, feet on the ground, safe and sound, feet on the ground. Mustafa Ali, you're going to learn that lesson today, whether you like it or not. Thank you. This match showed some good heat between these two gentlemen. They almost have my buy-in, but this constant fighting over who is the correct wrestling style is getting old. It's almost like watching my sisters fighting over the way each other should be raising their kids back in the day. Anyways, early on, Gulak gets a chance to gloat a bit, as all he does is a springboard attack, but falls short of where Gulak is standing. Then Gulak has a chance to beat up on Ali for a few minutes, and almost gets a 3 count after viciously suplexing Ali's back into the corner turnbuckles. After this, Ali comes back, surprisingly gets the crowd into it, does a few fast agility moves, and hits his trademark rolling neck breaker from outside the ropes to the inside. He too isn't able to get the 3 count, however. Ali then goes for a superplex, but Gulak is able to counter and throw Ali to the mat. As Gulak is sitting on the turnbuckle, with Ali below, the crowd starts egging him on to do a flying move from the top turnbuckle. Gulak appears to feed off this, and despite his attempt to sell his scared, wobbly, rubbery legs, he climbs reluctantly to the top turnbuckle. He then jumps off and hits a spectacular flying move. No! He jumps off and totally misses. Then Ali rolls over and embarrassed and stunned Drew Gulak for the 3 count victory. It was interesting seeing Drew Gulak betraying his own ideals. He has been spouting just to prove, once and for all, at his own expense, that they have merits. Then we go to a backstage segment where Noam Dar is apologizing to Arya Daivari for throwing his $15,000 bag into the river by mistake and offered to pay him back. Dar says that if he thinks about it, this is Cedric Alexander's fault, and Daivari should take it out on him in his match with him this evening. Daivari says that $15,000 is nothing to him. Noam Dar says he's really relieved by this, as he's pretty broke due to the high cell phone bills he's been incurring due to the constant demand from Alicia Fox to FaceTime with him. Then Alicia Fox calls to FaceTime with Noam Dar yet again. While he tries to talk to her, barely able to get a sentence in, Daivari grabs the phone and throws it against the wall, saying, "Let me be clear. I don't want your money, but you still owe me." Then we have Cedric Alexander versus Arya Daivari. This is sort of the main event of the evening. Sort of. Sadly, this is definitely the Cruiserweight match of the week. There really wasn't a lot of great wrestling in the Cruiserweight division this week. This is a pretty good match, however. Early on, we have a very impressive display of agility moves from Cedric Alexander, getting the crowd behind him. He even hits his springboard clothesline early on, and almost gets a 3 count. However, he then charges Daivari, who is stunned in the corner, but he runs into a big boot from Daivari. Daivari then tries to hit a move of his own, but Alexander counters with a forearm. Then Alexander runs at Daivari again, but Daivari hip tosses him back into the ropes viciously, gaining the momentum in the match. Then Daivari throws Alexander hard out of the ring, and while Alexander is stunned in one ring post, Daivari goes to the ring post to the left of it and runs along the apron, hitting Alexander with a nasty drop kick to the lower body, sending him hard to the floor. Daivari then throws Alexander back into the ring and tries for a 3 count, but Alexander says no. Daivari tries for a ground hold, but Cedric gets out, throws Daivari into the ropes, tries for a handspring rear shoulder attack, but Daivari catches him and puts him into a laying down sleeper hold. It looks like Alexander may fade, but he works his way and gets his foot onto the bottom rope just in time. Then Cedric Alexander makes a comeback and hits a handspring enziguri and covers, but at the count of 2, Arya Daivari says no. Alexander then goes into the corner, looking for a way to finish off Daivari, but then Noam Dar does a run-in from the backstage area and comes to ringside to interfere. Cedric Alexander makes Dar back off and gets back to attacking Daivari. However, he misses his top rope springboard attack, and when Daivari grabs him to try to do some sort of suplex, Alexander rolls him up into a leverage pin, but is unable to get the 3 count. Then Noam Dar hops back up onto the apron, and Alexander turns his attention to sending him flying, but while he's warning Dar, Daivari comes up from behind and hits his devastating hammerlock lariat and pins him for the 3 count victory. It's a huge solo win for Arya Daivari. I wonder if this means that Noam Dar and Arya Daivari are square now. Arya Daivari leaves right away, but Noam Dar stays behind and attacks Cedric Alexander on the ground, giving him the business. Then he gets up and eggs the crowd on as there's a chorus of boos. He then attacks Alexander again, giving him more of the business. Noam Dar then grabs the mic and says, "Alicia, I know you're home and recovering from that neck injury, and I know you'd love to be on FaceTime right now. I just want to make this clear. The Cedric Alexander chapter is over. I've defended your honor, and now it's time to move on, and we can focus on our love. Yo, Alicia, we did it!" Interesting Rocky reference, as Dar waves bye-bye to Cedric Alexander and walks out of the ring with his music playing. Then the final segment has Neville coming out and cutting a promo, talking about his title match at Great Balls of Fire against the misguided Wonder Kid Akira Tozawa, who doesn't understand the gravity of the situation he's in. He is someone the delusional WWE Universe actually believes has a snowball's chance of beating him. He then makes reference to Titus Worldwide and refers to Titus O'Neil as white noise, an interesting reference that I think Titus O'Neil could potentially find insulting. I thought of referring to Titus O'Neil as many different things before, but never thought of referring to him as white noise. Anyways, he warns Tozawa that he's another little lamb being led to the slaughter, and says Tozawa should not show up in 2 weeks at Great Balls of Fire, because if he does, he'll be slapped with the harsh reality that he's not even close to being on the Neville level, and warns him, "You are going to get hurt." Then Akira Tozawa's music starts, and out comes Tozawa. At first, Neville acts glad to see him. Aye, Tozawa, just the man I wanted to see, the flavor of the month. What exactly do you want? Tozawa simply says into the mic, "Ah!" Then Neville says, "I said, what do you want?" "Ah!" And the crowd starts chanting along with Tozawa. "What does that even mean, Tozawa? Do you even understand what I'm saying to you?" "Ah!" "I said, do you understand English, you idiot?" "Ah!" "All right, lad, all right, I'm warning you. One last chance. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you?" "Ah!" At this point, Tozawa is on the ring, on the apron. Neville shouts to the audience, "And you can shut up as well." "Ah! I'm warning you! Ah! Enough! Ah! Stop! Ah! Enough! Ah!" And then the crowd really starts chanting "Ah!" at this point. And then the fight begins. Neville tries to attack Tozawa, but he ducks and hits Neville with a kick and an enziguri, and takes off his suit jacket as Neville rolls out of the ring. Then Tozawa stares down Neville, and as Neville backs out of the ring, Tozawa yells, "Ah! Ah! 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 Ah!" into his microphone. Tozawa has such a way with his promos. And poor Neville never even has a chance to pick up his title from the ring. The show ends with Neville and Tozawa staring each other down, Neville by the entrance and Tozawa in the ring. Anyways, that's all the Cruiserweight action we have this week. Not a banner week in my opinion, but it ended strongly with a great match, a really good promo, and a decent encounter generating hype for the Cruiserweight Championship at Great Balls of Fire. Once again, this is Edmonton's area's own D-Job, Danimal, Daniel Jobber, self-proclaimed Duke of the Cruiserweights, and you've been listening to the Jobbing Out with Danimal, Daniel Jobber, 205 Live and WWE Cruiserweight Report, courtesy of the Edmonton Sports Podcast Network. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Daniel Jobber with a capital D, capital J, and on Instagram, Danimal Daniel Jobber, all lowercase letters, and you can check me out on YouTube on my Daniel Jobber channel. You can also go to my website, danimaldanialjobber.ca, and check out all my fun stuff and my Cruiserweight power rankings and all my other shenanigans. On the Edmonton SPN, you can check out such great shows as Mike the Ref's own The Blown Call and Quick Calls, Chris Parrish and Maniac's The Sound to Struggle podcast, and the great local wrestling action from CWC Evolution with Mike the Ref's great commentary. You can check us out on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and the amazingly convenient mobile app Podbean. Be sure to follow the Edmonton SPN on Twitter as well, at Edmonton SPN with a capital E and a capital S, capital P, capital N. And follow Mike the Ref on Instagram at Mike the Ref EDM, all lowercase letters. If you love us, and I know you will, be sure to go to whatamaneuver.net for official Edmonton Sports Podcast Network merchandise, including official Danimal Daniel Jobber merchandise, which you can also get by going to my danimaldanialjobber.ca website and clicking on the various links there. We have shirts and hoodies of various sizes and colors, including ones specialized for the ladies and for children, and even baby onesies to start your baby off right as a little jobber. Anyways, thanks for listening this week, and I'll see you next week. Jobber out! Did I mention that Big Cass was a complete casshole?
Time to do the job! Behold the jobber of jobbers. Daniel Jobber.